Beatboxing, I forget what I started. I might have started beatboxing before I started drumming. I don't remember. I don't know. But, no, I think I started drumming first because I remember I started drumming when I was like 10.
Yeah, why'd you get into drumming specifically?
I had just ended, my mom had put me into like some MMA or Taekwondo or something, some sort of mixed martial arts on the island. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to play an instrument. And she was like, all right, you can...
Oh, you got to pick?
Yeah.
Okay.
And for some reason, I don't know why, it was between piano or drums.
Drummer's cooler.
Yeah, but like if I'm a parent, I don't want my kid drumming. No. It was such a weird option. Why not guitar?
It's an inconvenient option.
Or
piano, you could literally just have a keyboard in your bed.
So I play a little bit of guitar. I have small hands, so it doesn't really work as well as I'd like. But I chose drums, and I took lessons for, I think 8 years, and then kept on playing for about... I mean, I still play to this day. I'm no longer in my prime, but if I practice, I could, sharpen that sword, I'll call it. I think the reason I love drums is because you could just play. Is what I initially thought.
Well, that's why drumming doesn't stand on its own sometimes.
Exactly. So and then I realized drummers don't make money unless you're a rock star. Percussion.
Making money in music is not a thing. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But like, it's not
why you do it.
Yeah, it's not why you do it.
But as I got older, I was like, oh shit, they don't want a drummer. I can be as good a drummer as I want. They want a percussionist. So that entitles timpanis, which are like the symphonic, doom doom, like the huge drums. Marimba, xylophone, which is like basically, you know what those are.
Yes. Why is that? Is that because most music uses percussions?
Yeah. So if you're a percussionist, it means you can play drums, you can play marimba, you can play timpani.
Okay.
You can play...
Oh, it's like a badge of telling me, oh, this is how good he is. Like, it's
right.
the next
if
step.
If you're just a drummer, good luck.
Like, you don't just start with Latin, you learn Spanish, and then maybe you get into Latin.
Exactly. Like, it's... Drumming and percussion is to... Like, yes, I do portraits, but I'm not like a portraiture. I'm a photographer.
Yes.
Percussion is... If you want to be a professional percussionist... You have to be a professional drummer, and
you have to know how to do everything.
Exactly, and that's
at a high level.
Yes, that's so. When I first started looking at colleges, I was gonna go to music therapy. I was not good enough at marimba and xylophone, and
because you didn't have percussion.
I knew the basics, but I wasn't. You have to be good at everything.
Yes, you were a great drummer, but you weren't
a
great percussionist.
Yeah. And what if they already have a great drummer? That means I gotta get on marimba and
all of their percussionists can already play drums at a decent level.
Yeah,
and
more than decent.
And it seems like a lot of the music they might not always need a drummer, so it kind of limits you.
That's another thing. In symphonies, you're not on a drum set usually. Tough. You're on a marimba or a xylophone or a timpani.
Yep.
They don't need a drum set player. They don't need Travis Barker. I mean, sure, it's great, but why do we need you? Go on the snare. Go on the timpani. Go on the marimba. Go on the bongos, go on the congas. After I realized that I didn't want to do that professionally, I ended up branching out anyway and learning piano and marimba and xylophone and congas and bongo drums and cajones and stuff like that. Just out of curiosity, I had gone so far with drumming, I was like, what else is there?
And beatboxing, did that make you better as a drummer?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Because it allowed me to experiment with different rhythms. That if I can do it with my mouth, so let's say like the beat is like and I can mimic that with my mouth, but if I thought about it somewhere in public, it's hard to memorize a rhythm just thinking about it.
Yes.
You want to hear it if it sounds good in actuality. So like if I was doing a beat like
it's a way to keep that part of your brain active.
Exactly. And I never had a use for it.
Because like you said, drumming is an inconvenient thing.
Right, I have to use a drum set.
You're not going to have a drum set in front of you the whole time.
And you can only...
Yeah.
And you're going to annoy the shit out of people. No one likes when you tap your... You can be a drummer and like be drumming on a desk and no one likes it. But the minute you're like... They're like, wow, it's a skill now.
Yeah.
What was this? This is the same... Whatever.
It just doesn't sound as good.
Right. And then I got into beatboxing separately. And I was like, yeah, it's a cool skill, but I like, like I said, when I get into things, I get into them. Like, I dive deep into it.
Yeah.
So I started looking up Roxer Loops, one of the best beatboxers of all time. He won, like, the Germany championships multiple times. He actually follows us, which is cool. And he found me because he found my acapella group.
Okay.
So I was the beatboxer, and then followed us.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a regular guy now. He won a bunch of...
Oh, he's always been a regular guy.
Right. I guess I used to see him as like a hero.
Yeah.
The shit he would do was so crazy. He would do inside snares and outward snares and inward bass drops and throat bass and like I get... Like, it's crazy the shit he would do.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I'm watching this, I'm like, what the... Like, this dude is a god.
It's like the guy they hired to do the cartoon sound effects.
Yeah. Well, it was cooler than that. But,
yes.
And then, because I never thought... Because that was... Back in the day, I was just like... Now, I've found the snare I like, which is a tooth... a tooth, and you press your tongue on the top of your... And my bass used to be like... And now it's... It goes from here to over here, so it's a deeper like... And then I went from that to learning like more complicated shit like... So...
Well, you brought a unique dynamic to your acapella group because they didn't have beatboxers in acapella.
They had people who could beatbox,
but
they never had a beatboxer.
Yes, but also it helped that you were a drummer already, so you were.
I knew the music.
You've established a rhythm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But through beatboxing, I learned there are things that you just can't do on drums.
Do you say that beatboxing is closer to playing an instrument more than it is to singing?
Beatboxing is vocal percussion.
Okay.
I would call it. I would say it's still closer to singing.
Okay.
But then I kept beatboxing and practicing that separately from drums, because I realized like there are some things like on drums you can't make. There's no sound for like a. Like there's no scratch.
Yeah. Well, if you wanted to make that sound before records exist, you could never explain it.
Exactly. So I noticed like, wait, these are two separate skills now. I can drum and I can beatbox. So then that opened up a whole new world for beatboxing for me. Because I started using my breath as, a sound in itself. Instead of like... Well, okay, that's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... But what can I put in between that?
And now you're building a track.
So now I'm hitting every beat. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E. And those, not everything's a hit, but
the fact that you could add more layers to it.
Exactly. So in between, I put.
Yeah, and people hear the hits more, but they don't hear the little things that you're putting in between it.
Because there's a big difference between. And.
Yeah, even if it's the same hit, there's more layers.
If you take out the hits, it's just.
And now I'm impressed.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's never about impressing people.
I know, but you know what I mean.
Well,
it sounds better.
Right. It just sounds better. It's a fuller sound. And then once you go, and then you get into beat drops, which again, in drumming, there's no real bass drops because you need a constant rhythm usually. You can do a solo, but trap started. And all these DJs started doing these bass drops. Where it's like... And these crazy... The bass drop is built off like... And then a crazy rhythm.
Sequence right after.
Exactly.
But it also does the simple sequence, and then when it hits the bass drop, and then it goes into the more complex layered sequence, you're more impressed because you had seen what it originally sounded like.
And you can just go, and then that opened up a whole new world when I started listening to just trap beats. Like, and I don't mean trap as in like T.I. rap, hip hop trap. I mean like Hoochie. I mean like some of the OG trap DJs. And they would just like go crazy on the MPCs.
Well, hip hop has always been the place where drums have found their home.
Exactly. And so.
So it makes sense that that's where you would take it.
Right.
And beatboxing is from hip hop, correct?
Correct. It's one of the 4 like pillars of hip hop: turntablism or DJing, freestyling, breakdancing, and beatboxing. The 4 of those created the culture that is known as hip hop. So, and I loved all of that. I loved dancing. I loved, writing raps and freestyling. I love beatboxing. Yeah, like I think that's what put me onto hip hop too. Like not only just you, but the reason I fell in love with it so quickly. I already had all the tools to enjoy it, if that makes sense.
Well, what's crazy is you enjoyed drumming before you even got into hip hop.
Exactly.
And then learning about hip hop.
Back in the day.
Yeah, and then learning about hip hop opens up a whole new world for drumming because it's used completely differently.
Yeah. And who put me on other than you was my band teacher in high school was like, wait, you're a jazz drummer and you listen to metal? Like, you don't listen to funk or, like, anything that, like, because metal and jazz really have not much to do with each other. So he was like, come to my office, and he put on my iPod, and he put a lot of jazz, but also, like, Biggie's whole discography, Tupac's whole discography, Nas's whole discography.
Yeah, their drum work is crazy.
Right. A lot of those 90s drum boom bap stuff was
some of the best drummers are hip-hop producers, in a weird way.
Yeah. I mean, A-Rap Music on the MPC, we've seen, he goes crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and he has tools that drummers don't even have. That drummers have started. My favorite drummer in the world ever, Mike Portnoy. No offense to Neil Peart, rest in peace, but I think Mike Portnoy was the first dude that I saw drum. He was a drummer for Dream Theater, who does all these complicated like rock tracks, and he had an MPC pad on his drum set because some of the sounds he wanted, he had huge MPC pads to like hit like sounds that you couldn't make on a drum set. Like sonically, it doesn't exist. And I was like, holy shit, he's kind of blending the.
Well, you can't play a police siren either.
Exactly.
On a drum set.
Right, you can't play a like. You can't
doesn't
play
exist
808 on a drum set.
Yeah,
but with these pads through the speakers, you could. And I was like, holy shit, like that's fucking crazy.
And what's crazy when that first started happening, people were always discounting and saying, "Oh, that's not music. Auto-tune isn't music." But no, it could still be used artistically. Yes, absolutely.
It's just a tool to get that creativity out. And
it also made it more affordable for people who couldn't afford drum sets.
Yeah, an MPC's like $99, and then you can rip some sounds off.
Yeah.
And then with the internet, you can download as many beat packs, drum sounds as you want. You know, if you want to make a drum set out of a police siren, an air horn, a fart, go ahead. You know, like, I mean, good luck.
Be the hottest track of the year.
Yeah.
Because no one's dropping.
Yeah. But, you know, it allowed people who don't have access to a drum set, maybe they just can't make noise, so plug in your headphones in the MPC, you rock out. You could, and then lay the track onto a laptop. They have software for free. Now you're a producer.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe you didn't know you had that talent, and maybe now, you know, there are dudes on YouTube that are son of Meek Mill now.
Yeah.
You know?
And all they started with was a computer.